Cassius Faison. We've never met.
These story moves feel bigger than ordinary soap chaos. Nothing about this feels accidental. It feels like the writers are setting emotional traps everywhere, and sooner or later, somebody is going to step in one. Because when I look at everything happening, I do not just see plot twists. I see consequences. I see secrets turning into damage, and damage turning into fallout. Let me start with Cassius Faison, because this one has a lot more going on than people may realize. The more I sit with Cassius, the more I feel like this story was never meant to end the way it appeared on the surface. When a character exits in secrecy with the WSB involved, that usually tells me one thing. The door is not shut. It may be cracked, but it is still there. Cassius was not written like a disposable character. He was written like somebody with unfinished business, somebody whose presence still matters even when he is off screen. When the writing keeps tugging at the emotional thread, it usually means the show is saving something for later. What really changes the picture for me is the WSB angle. Once you put Cassius inside that world, he is no longer just a man who disappeared from Port Charles. He becomes part of a bigger machine, one built on secrets, power, and pressure. That tells me the character still has a path back if the show wants one. And if Ryan Paevey ever returns, that comeback would not just be about fan service, it would be about fallout. It would be about people having to face what they believed, what they were told, and what they never got the chance to understand. That is the kind of return that can shake several storylines at once. James is where the emotional weight really lands for me. He is reacting to loss, confusion, and attachment all at once. And the hardest part is that he does not know the truth. He only knows somebody he cared about is gone. Children do not process betrayal the same way adults do. First comes the absence, then the confusion, then the hurt. And if the truth ever comes out, the emotional fallout could hit all over again even harder. That is why I think this storyline still has so much power, because the reveal is not the end. It is the start of the real damage. Now let's talk about Britt Westbourne, because this one is devastating in a completely different way. Britt's story hurts because it is built on a lie that shaped her entire life. Imagine thinking you are dying for years. That changes everything. It changes how fast you move, how you love, how you trust, and how you justify choices you never would have made under normal circumstances. That is why Britt's actions make sense, even when they are awful. She was not operating from peace. She was operating from fear, from panic, from the belief that she had no time left to get things right. And when somebody lives under that kind of pressure, bad choices can start to look necessary. That is what makes this so tragic. So when Lucas walked into that cell and told her the truth, that was not a neat little rescue. That was a full emotional gut punch, because the lie she had built her life around suddenly collapsed, and with it went the excuse that had explained so much of her behavior. The reveal about the saline and the falsified records makes it even darker. Britt was not just deceived medically, she was manipulated psychologically. Her fear was weaponized. Her body was forced to obey a story that was never true. That is horrifying when you really sit with it. So now Britt has to face the hardest question of all. Who is she without the death sentence? That is where this gets really interesting. Because for years, the diagnosis was the frame around her identity. It explained the way she moved through the world. Now that frame is gone, and she has to figure out who exists outside it. Britt is not just dealing with relief. She is dealing with shame, grief, rage, and a massive identity crisis all at once. She has to think about the damage she caused, the people she pushed away, and the choices she made while believing time was running out. That is heavy. So when I look at both storylines, that is what stands out most to me. Cassius is about unfinished business. Britt is about the collapse of a lie. One story asks, what happens when a person comes back? The other asks, what happens when a person finally sees the truth? Those are the kinds of stories that stay with viewers. So now I am curious, which one changes Port Charles more permanently, Cassius finding his way back, or Britt rebuilding herself from the ground up. If you want, I can also make this even more dramatic and punchy without changing the word count.